I'd like to call to order the Ministerial Dialogue. I believe most people have come in who are... May I request the Secretary to shut the doors? Thank you very much. Excellencies, Honorable Ministers, distinguished colleagues, it's my pleasure to welcome you to this Ministerial Dialogue. We had a very good start to the meeting, and now it's going to be getting down to business. This is the first time that graduating and graduated LDCs have come together to reflect collectively on their journeys, challenges, and aspirations. As we heard in the opening, the momentum for graduation has never been stronger. 3 countries have graduated since 2020. 14 more are now on the graduation pathway, and many others are making steady progress. Furthermore, as we all know, the Doha Programme of Action has also set an ambitious goal that at least 15 additional LDCs will meet the graduation criteria by 2031. And I believe that this is a powerful signal of what determined national leadership, strong institutions, and effective partnerships can achieve. Yet, as we heard in the morning, that graduation, while a landmark national achievement, also brings new complexities. Ministers present here with us today represent countries that embody this dual reality of opportunities and challenges, and their perspectives will be invaluable for shaping the next generation of smooth transition strategies. Allow me to briefly outline how our dialogue will go, ministers. We will begin with a fireside chat where ministers from graduating and graduated LDCs will share first-hand experiences of their transition journeys, and we expect this to be an interactive dialogue, a frank and free discussion. And there, we are expecting that their reflections will also help us identify gaps and come up with practical recommendations for graduating and recently graduated LDCs. Following their remarks, we'll also hear from some other senior representatives, and if time permits, I will open the floor for additional interventions before returning to the honorable ministers on the panel for their final sort of responses and reactions to issues that may be raised from the floor. Allow me now to introduce our distinguished panel of ministers. I have just sitting next to me His Excellency Mr. Paulson Panapa, Minister for Foreign Affairs, Labor and Trade of Tuvalu. And then I have His Excellency Mr. Gareth Haddad do Espirito Santo Guadalupe. Minister, was that correct? Yes. Minister for Economy and Finance of Sao Tome and Principe. His Excellency Mr. Abdullah Hamid, Minister of State for Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Maldives. His Excellency Professor A.S.M. Anisuzzaman Chaudhry, Special Assistant to Chief Advisor, State Minister, Ministry of Finance of Bangladesh. And His Excellency Mr. Fahad Al-Sulaiti, Director General of the Qatar Fund for Development. Honorable Ministers, each of you will have 5 minutes to make your statements so that we can have more statements come from the floor. And again, we'll have the opportunity to come back to you for your reactions in any closing statement, if that is all right with you. All right? And if you go a bit too much over time, I'll be sort of alerting you on that. So let me start first with you, Honorable Minister Panapa, Minister for Foreign Affairs, Labor and Trade of Tuvalu. Tuvalu has been eligible for graduation since 2012, having met the income and human development thresholds, but continues to exhibit extreme vulnerability according to the Economic Vulnerability Index. Thus, despite being recommended for graduation by the CDP, it has not been endorsed by ECOSOC for graduation. So, Minister Panapa, reflecting on Tuvalu's challenging graduation pathway, what recommendations would you offer for designing a global support mechanism that ensures predictability and resilience for graduating countries, especially for a small island developing state LDC like yourself? Minister, The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Moderator. Excellencies, distinguished ministers, ladies and gentlemen. Tuvalu is honored to share this platform today. For Tuvalu, the question of graduation is not abstract. It is not a statistical milestone, nor it is merely a development label. It is a question of resilience, sovereignty, and survival. Our country faces a reality where our development gains can be wiped away overnight by a cyclone, where sea level rise threatens the very ground beneath our feet, and where geography imposes constraints that no policy reform can fully eliminate. A nation cannot graduate from climate change. Therefore, graduation must not be determined solely by income thresholds. It must be determined by whether a country has the resilience to remain standing once it has graduated. Tuvalu believes that graduation must not signal the withdrawal of support. It must begin the era of resilience. Access to concessional financing, technical cooperation, and trade arrangements should continue until resilience, not numerical qualification, is achieved in a real and lasting way. In this regard, Tuvalu welcomes the establishment of the Sustainable Graduation Facility, IGRAD. We see IGRAD as the modern architecture required to ensure that no country graduates into uncertainty. It provides instruments necessary to make graduation irreversible, predictable, and properly sequenced. Excellencies, if graduation is to be meaningful, it must be backed by partnerships that match ambition with reality. Graduation frameworks must recognize that least developed countries, especially small islands, developing states, face vulnerabilities created not by governance failure, but by geography, history, and external shocks. Tuvalu stands ready to work with Qatar, the UN OHRLLS, and all partners to forge a path where graduation becomes a bridge to opportunity, not a cliff of uncertainty. Together, let us ensure that no country is asked to graduate alone and no nation is left behind. Thank you, Moderator.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Minister Panapa, for highlighting your country's particular unique vulnerabilities, especially as climate vulnerable sits. And you're very right, no country should be left alone to deal with graduation. And I like the point, and I have seen it myself when I visited the Pacific, the whole issue about sovereignty and survival when it comes to the island nations. Thank you, Minister, for bringing those perspectives in. We'll now hear from a recently graduated country, His Excellency Gareth Haddad do Espírito Santo Guadalupe, Minister for Economy and Finance of São Tomé and Príncipe. São Tomé and Príncipe graduated from the LDC status in December 2024. Congratulations, Minister. The country, however, continues to face rising vulnerability as its EVI reached 40 following recent severe floods. Instead of a separate smooth transition strategy, the government embedded transition action into its new national development plan and is working closely with the UN and other development partners to move from aid dependence to a more private sector-driven model. Minister, my question to you would be, could you share how São Tomé and Príncipe's integrated approach linking transition measures to the National Development Plan and focusing on private sector growth has influenced the country's resilience post-graduation? And my second question is, what lessons can be drawn from your experience to mobilize investment and partnerships, especially in light of the upcoming investment forum that your country is hosting in Brussels next week, and which we have a pleasure also of partnering with you. Minister, over to you.
Thank you very much, Moderator. First of all, allow me to thank the Governor of Qatar for hosting us here and for United Nations to invite us for this important meeting. So, Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, it's with a great honor for São Tomé and Príncipe to contribute to this dialogue on strategic pathways for sustainable graduations. Our participation today comes at a historic moment for my country. We recently graduated from the group of least developed countries less than a year ago, and simultaneously became the first nation in the world with 100% of its territory designated as UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. The first country in the world with completed territory as UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. These milestones reflect both our commitment to global sustainability and the scale of responsibility that we now carry on behalf of the international community. Graduation for us is not an end point. It is a transition into a new era when access to grants and concessional finance is diminished, while climate-related shocks and economic fragilities continue to intensify. This is why we believe that graduation frameworks must be complemented by mechanisms that take vulnerability into account, not just income thresholds, and ensure continued access to appropriate financial instruments for resilience building, climate adaptation, and economic diversification. Graduation must also not be interpreted as an absence of development needs. We see our new environmental status not as a constraint, but as an opportunity. Our island nation is now a global public good in its entirety, an open-air living laboratory for natural positive development, climate adaptation, and the blue economy. This creates clear value for investors. That's why we are holding this investment forum in Brussels. Development partners and scientific institutions seeking high-impact interventions aligning with global environment, social, and governance factors, climate and biodiversity goals. But to fully seize these opportunities, we need to recalibrate partnerships. Not less partnership, but better partnership. Partnerships that blend grants, concessional windows, climate funds, philanthropies, and private capital. Partnerships that support long-term resilience rather than short-term project cycles. And partnerships that help countries like ours turn natural capital into economic opportunity without compromise ecological integrity. In this new context, São Tomé and Príncipe positions itself around the strategy of innovation, diversification, and resilience. We want to deploy a portfolio of green bonds, blue bonds, and debt for natural swap. We are not even asking for debt forgiveness or debt relief. We are asking for debt swap for climate finance, because I've been struggling on a daily basis to pay my debt service. If I have to pay that debt and come back to finance the climate infrastructures, it will make my life much easier. We want to expand opportunities for renewable energy, investment in sustainable tourism, corridors, and strengthen ocean governance in one of the most biodiverse marine regions on the planet. São Tomé and Príncipe graduation is a transition towards a new development model, one that transforms our unique status as the world's first 100% biosphere reserve nation into an engine for blue and green growth, supported by innovative financing and strategic partnerships, so that graduation becomes not a moment of reduced support, but the beginning of a more strategic engagement. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, again, for sharing your country's experience. You're one of the most brand new graduated countries. I think your experience, especially as a very climate vulnerable SIDS LDC, will be so important for other SIDS and other climate vulnerable countries who are on the graduation pathway. But we like your approach to build a resilient and investment-driven transition after LDC graduation. And I think perhaps in the second round, you can perhaps share a bit more about the investment forum that you're hosting in Brussels. So again, congratulations on that. We will turn to now another successfully graduated LDC, the Maldives, His Excellency Mr. Abdullah Hamid, Minister of State for Foreign Affairs of the Republic of the Maldives. Maldives graduated in 2011 and has been a true pioneer in forging robust adaptive approaches to the smooth transition process, setting important precedents for other graduating LDCs. Perhaps, Minister, you'll be able to share some of that. Maldives also successfully negotiated a number of important post-graduation special support measures to ensure sustainable and smooth transition. Minister Hamid, based on your country's experience, if you can share with us how can graduating countries more effectively engage bilateral and multilateral partners to negotiate vital extensions of support? I think that is one of the main concerns that many of the graduating countries now have. And what key lessons from Maldives' post-graduation journey would you highlight for LDCs preparing for the smooth transition strategies? Over to you, Minister.
Thank you very much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's an honor for me to participate in this important dialogue. The Maldives, a group of islands in the Indian Ocean. I'm sure most of you all must have heard of it. And whenever you talk about the Maldives, nowadays everybody thinks of the beautiful beaches and whatever else is known in the world. But we do have our share of issues, and it'll be a pleasure for me to share with you some of the lessons we have learned, as well as experiences we have gone through. As a country that graduated in 2011, in fact, the third nation ever to do so, the Maldives can offer hard-won insights on navigating complex transition out of an LDC status. When we first assessed to meet graduation criteria in 1997, the news was met with mixed emotions. Over the years, leading to our eventual graduation in 2011, as Fatima very rightly said, we experienced both the benefits of extended transition period and uncertainties of being a pioneer. The devastating 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, which wiped out more than half of our GDP just days after our graduation announcement or decision taken by the United Nations General Assembly, underscored how quickly the progress can be reversed. Our journey taught us that graduation is not a destination, as some of our colleagues have just mentioned, but a critical development juncture. For the Maldives, graduation meant transitioning from being one of the world's poorest nations in 1971 with minimal per capita income to achieving substantial economic growth by 2011. Yet, throughout this progress, we continued overcoming the challenges posed by climate change, as most of us, the island nations, share. Structural shocks. The reality defines our post-graduation experience, achieving income growth on one hand and persistent structural challenges as a small island developing state on the other. Allow me to share 5 lessons from our experience. 1, graduating countries must be prepared for multiple simultaneous transitions. We executed our long-term development vision while simultaneously managing tsunami recovery and implementing sweeping political reforms that transformed our governance system. Smooth transition strategies must be integrated with broader national development plans, linking them to the National Development Plans, SDGs, relevant programs of actions and reform priorities. 2, economic diversification plans must be comprehensive and deliberate. We transformed from a fisheries-dependent economy to one led by tourism expansion and broader service sector development. We introduced new tourism models, catalyzed construction sector growth, and pursued export-oriented strategies. However, becoming overly reliant on a single replacement sector still results in exposure to huge external shocks. True resilience requires diversification both across and within the sectors. 3. Foundations for effective domestic resource mobilization and innovative financing solutions must be laid prior to the graduation. We implemented comprehensive tax reforms, restructured state enterprises, and pioneered alternative financing mechanisms, including domestic debt instruments, international bond issuances, and infrastructure partnerships with the private sector. When preferential accesses faded, these foundations prevented fiscal collapse. 4. Graduating countries need to be proactive in negotiating transitional arrangements with partners. The loss of trade preferences carried significant costs. Our fishery exports to the European Union faced and continue to face substantial tariffs. We negotiated extensions and we continue to pursue alternative preferential schemes. Graduating countries must actively engage development partners early to secure extended transition periods and alternative arrangements. At the same time, graduation must not lead to the loss of special considerations for structurally vulnerable economics, particularly those with geographic and environmental constraints like ours. Most of us are here. Number 5, lastly, a systematic approach to tackling structural vulnerability is key. We addressed employment challenges through social protection and educational expansion, reduced regional disparities across our country by improving service delivery across our islands, and strengthened institutional frameworks. These measures sustain living standards post-graduation, even as external support diminished. The establishment of Sustainable Graduation Support Facility, or IGRAD, represents exactly the kind of innovative support mechanism we needed during our transition. The facility, I am confident, takes into account several lessons learned about the graduation process over the past decades. The Maldives strongly encourages all partners to fully operationalize this facility, ensure it provides demand-driven country-specific assistance. If there is one thing we can take away from our process, is that no two countries' graduation journey is the same. Therefore, targeted support is essential. Looking ahead, the Doha Program of Action's goal of enabling 15 additional LDCs to graduate by 2031 is ambitious but achievable if we act collectively. This requires graduating countries to take ownership of their transition strategies, aligning them with national development plans and SDG targets. It equally requires development partners to honor their commitments to smooth transition support, extended transition periods where appropriate, and expanded access to concessional financing. For SIDs or the SIDS country, this means addressing true vulnerability, lack of productive and state capacity, as well as better attention to issues such as sustainable debt management. The climate crisis adds urgency to our deliberation. For SIDS, graduation cannot come at the expense of climate resilience. Access to climate finance and technology must be preserved. Access to climate finance and technology must be preserved and enhanced for graduated countries facing environmental threats. Let us remember that sustainable graduation is not merely about meeting thresholds. It is about ensuring irreversible progress towards prosperity and resilience. The Maldives stands ready to share our experiences and learn from others as we collectively forge the ambitious partnerships needed to make graduation truly transformative. Thank you very much.
Minister Hamid, thank you very much. You even got an applause. But I think that was a very inspiring and remarkable journey for your country. And the 5 lessons that you have identified, starting from economic diversification to mobilizing more domestic resources and bringing about real change, I think is very important. But also the proactive, I think that's very important. I'm emphasizing on the word proactive. Proactive measures that countries need to take, graduating countries need to take with their partner countries in negotiating ISMs. I think that's very, very important. It is not a coincidence, I would believe, that our first 3 ministers here actually were all from SIDS. So in addition to being, they are geographically highly vulnerable, SIDS are. So I think it's remarkable what you have been able to achieve, especially 1 decade has gone by since your graduation, and you have very important lessons to share, Minister. Just wanted to mention, I think it is very important also to look at multidimensional vulnerability, as you rightly mentioned, and also Minister Guadalupe mentioned. I think there is already a mechanism that the UN has agreed to, that is the Multidimensional Vulnerability Index. We'll need another meeting for that, but that tool is now there for even graduating in other countries to look at multidimensional vulnerabilities and still be eligible for access to concessional funding and others, including climate financing. Thank you very much, Minister Hamid. And now we turn to His Excellency Dr. Anisuzzaman Chaudhry, Special Assistant to the Chief Advisor, Ministry of Finance of Bangladesh. Bangladesh met all 3 LDC graduation criteria in 2018, 2021, and 2025, demonstrating strong socioeconomic progress. The country has a comprehensive, smooth transition strategy. However, as a country that has greatly benefited from various international support measures, there are now concerns regarding the impact of withdrawal of some of these benefits following graduation. And as requested by the government, my office is now undertaking a graduation readiness assessment for Bangladesh. Question for you, Minister Chaudhry. As Bangladesh implements its smooth transition strategy and prepares for graduation, how is the government working to mobilize continued partnerships, finance, and trade opportunities to address any challenges and ensure that graduation is both sustainable and resilient? And what innovations or lessons from Bangladesh's experience would you like to share that could help guide other countries preparing for graduation? Over to you, Dr. Chaudhry.
Thank you. Good morning to everyone. First of all, I thank your office for organizing this very useful session. And also I thank the government of Qatar for hosting us. And Qatar has been a very good friend of LDCs. Just had our LDC 5 in Qatar. Very proactive development partners, I would say, and it's something to be commendable. I don't have any written statement. I'm just listening to my brothers here telling their experience. And to speak after their statement makes my life easier, because all the experiences they have, especially Maldives, the 5 lessons. Without even coming here and listening to him, I think we learned those lessons already, and we are working along those exactly the 5 points that you mentioned. Specifically what you asked about the partnership, what we are doing. So first of all, we are actually actively engaged with our trade partners, especially so that we can have free trade agreements. Japan is close to conclusion. We have started a discussion with South Korea, the Republic of Korea, on free trade agreements. We successfully negotiated with the U.S. The tariff, the so-called reciprocal trade tariff, which started with 37%, we brought down to 20% and likely to come down further. And then we are also in discussion with other trade partners, especially with the EU, because our export, which is very much dominated by garment industry, 85% of our export earnings come from one sector, which makes our country very, very vulnerable. What we have not been able to do over the last 30 odd years, or even more than that, diversification was not, we have not been able to diversify enough, I would say. We did diversify, but not enough, and we became over-dependent on only one sector. And that is causing the problem now when it comes to graduation, because one sector is so dominant, both economically and because we are vulnerable. Anything happens to that sector will make the country very vulnerable, and that becomes politically very sensitive because of that. So what we are working on, actually, in addition to making our trading partners relationship with them and to extend our access to the market as smooth as possible and to maintain those access, we are also actively trying to improve our domestic capacities. For example, on the resource mobilization, because we know we will not have access to concessional finance for long. Our tax to GDP ratio is in a dismal situation. And this is one of the failures, I must say, I admit, in front of everyone, that our tax to GDP ratio is shamefully low. And we are working on that to improve our tax to domestic resource mobilization. We started with the reform of our National Board of Revenue, and now we have also set up an independent group of experts to look into the whole tax issue, the rationalization of tax system, broadening the base of tax system, minimize the tax evasion, and improve the effectiveness of tax collection, and so on. So the committee is about to submit its report this month, within a week or so. So we are working on that to take into account of the fact that our access to concessional finance will be difficult. We are also have taken steps to improve our debt management, so unifying our debt management system, and we are working on that as well. We are also working on, as I said, the diversification of the economy, because graduation is just a milestone in our journey to development. And Bangladesh, as you know, as the opening statement said, is the most successful country in terms of utilizing the facilities offered to LDCs. Now, how did we become more successful? Now, if we reflect back, it all depended on our domestic readiness. The domestic policy played a significant role in terms of harnessing the advantages that LDC categorization offered. For example, the garment industry, for example. So the duty-free and quota-free access, we took advantage of, and the multi-fiber agreement. So that was done through very early on in 1978. The government realized that this is an opportunity that is going to come, as Republic of Korea, for example, were about to lose the advantage. So we took proactive measure to have the technical cooperation with the Korean garment industry, with local garment industry. So that was a very proactive approach. Same with the pharmaceutical. So we are very much successful in pharmaceutical industry to take advantage of the three exemptions that was given to the LDCs. But before the TRIPS came into existence in 1995, our pharmaceutical industry actually already developed through a very strong domestic policy from early 1980s. So by the time the TRIPS became available, we were ready to take advantage of that TRIPS facility. So domestic policy is more important for a country aspiring to develop. And this is the examples that I'm hearing from you people. And our experience is not very different. So, and using that now in the transition period now. So as I said, we look at our own economy and we look at where we failed. And as I said, shamefully, our tax to GDP ratio is very low. And I'm very happy to admit that. And our
Minister, you'll start wrapping up. Yes.
Yeah. Just one more thing. This is we are short in terms of a structural transformation. So we are identifying the emerging industries, emerging sectors, and providing ready to provide them with the policy support, so that our structural transformation is better, and again is aligned with SDGs, because we don't want any structural transformation which is not aligned with SDGs. So I'll stop at this point. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, for your very candid reflections. And as you rightly said, Bangladesh has possibly best used the international support measures. And that is why there is now some real concerns about what will happen in the next phase when some of these ISMs are withdrawn. And that is why we are here, to see what more can be done. What can be done now in the new phase to see, whether there's more gradual withdrawal of support measures, new partnerships can be forged. But I'm also happy to hear that you are actively now pursuing free trade agreements and others with your trading partners. Very good, Minister. We will hear more from you later, but also to let you know that the findings of the readiness assessment that you have asked us to do, graduation readiness assessment, we hope to share with you that by next month. Okay, thank you. We now come to the last but not the least, His Excellency Mr. Fahad Al-Sulaiti, Director General Qatar Fund for Development. Qatar has demonstrated exceptional leadership in supporting the least developed countries. You hosted the LDC 5 conference. You have pledged millions of dollars, $60 million, to advance the Doha Program of Action, and you continue to support its implementation. And we thank you, DG Sulaiti, for hosting this very important meeting on graduation, which is a very important priority of the Doha Program of Action. Director General Al-Sulaiti, Your Excellency, if you could please share how Qatar plans to continue its support for LDCs and graduating countries in the coming years, and what specific initiatives does Qatar envision in support of LDC graduation?
Thank you very much, Ms. Fatma, for this introduction, and thank you for all the ministers today for what they stated, and we have seen some success stories of some countries have been graduated. But let me start to thank you, Ms. Fatma Rabab. Really, you are the hero now, for driving this transitions, and we really trust you a lot, because we have seen really a progress since 2022 when Qatar, hosted the Doha Declaration for the LDC, and we are so proud about it. I think we have made a lots of excellent progress, you know, of where we are today. I would like to start, you know, where we believe as the state of Qatar is, that, and we have agreed a lot with what have been stated in Maldives today. We don't want to shock, you know, countries for these transitions. I think we need to do it very smooth and transition, and this is what we are working together on. I think building capacity for countries is the key elements that we would like to work with you on this as strong tools. I think this is the beginning, you know, for each country that they are willing and have the commitment to move forward for these things. But we as a state of Qatar through Qatar Fund for Development, we continue, you know, our commitment to the LDC countries by, you know, guided by the Doha programs for actions, especially on the track 1. You know, we have a huge focus on reducing poverty, building capacity, and secondly is on the track 5s, where we really focus a lot on the climate, where we hear today, you know, the climate resilience, how it's centered, you know, to the support for this important element for any sustainability, you know, for this smooth transitions. As Qatar Fund, as you mentioned, you know, we have the commitment for $60 million, you know, for the Doha actions. We have started now 3 initiatives with you. The first one was in the food stock holding projects, you know, which is under track 1A. This is very important. Food security is really a key component for all LDC, the agricultures, and starting, you know, with a sustainable mechanism for this for us is the way for really creating a strong ecosystem inside the countries. And we will come to the financing, you know, intervention from my side. I think that the key support that we want to go for, you know, I think I have 4 major comments that and point that we'd like to mention. One, we need the international support for any transitions. Single country cannot do it alone, and we believe this is strong, huge commitment that need to be coming together from all the ODAs, development banks, international institutes. This is what we need to work together to make this success. Where there is a commitment, this is where we will be standing and coming together for this. We understand the conflict, we understand the challenges, you know, for certain countries, but I think we need to come with a very innovative ways and solutions, you know, to these countries to support them to take a step forward. The financing mechanism, which is very important. We've been here today, you know, of reducing burden on loans, you know, going for blended financing and others. But honestly, I think that this is not the solutions. I think the solution for financing mechanism is the private sectors. If we want to go for diversity, as you mentioned, Your Excellency, we cannot depend only on the country to do it. The only way to do it is the private sectors. Let the private sector take the loans, you know, create the strong shareholders inside the countries, okay? The government could be part of that private sectors, you know. We, State of Qatar, you know, we work a lot on that things, you know. Most of our commitment now, you know, for energies, for ICT and other sectors is going through the private sectors. And we are shared of that as private sector things. Me mention, you know, the government cannot take additional loans. Yes, but the private sector can take that loan, you know, on behalf of the government, you know. They have their own ways to do it, and we believe this is the strongest way, you know, where we can go. And because the country, if they want more diversities, the diversity through the private sectors. This is what we strongly believe, and this is what we want to push for, you know, to move forward on that aspects. Capacity building, you know, capacity building for LDC is the main remaining things. We are working on the visibility studies for LDC countries. How can we support? How can we work with them? Sharing experience with the countries is very important through building capacity, and we believe strongly that this is the key elements that we want to work on it through a good data. You know, if we don't have a good data, I think this will be a big gap that we can fulfill always. And you know, having a strong data inside the government, it's important for us to understand what is the need. The last point I want to mention here is the climate and resilience for financing for climate, which is totally, we understand, you know, how this really affecting a lot now, you know, on the climate issues, and how can we continue aiming, you know, for the most climate countries that been affected in the world. We have seen natural disaster, unfortunately, just this year, you know, within this last 3 months, you know, we've been called, you know, for 5-6 countries Okay, just from like Nepal and Bangladesh, Pakistan, and other countries, either South America and others. This has been really a big issues, and we need to address it in a very, very important way. Some countries doing good progress, but really, I've been meeting, from Nepal 2 days ago, being affected from the recent hurricane, climate natural disasters. And it's been affected by the third of the energies, so for a couple of days only. So this is really affecting the countries to move, from LDC to mid-income countries, and we need to really tackle this in a very, very important way. At the end, I'd like to thank you, and looking forward to continue our discussions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, again for reiterating Qatar's continued support for the LDCs. Excellency, you mentioned about the deliverables, and I would like to also let the audience know that, the Qatar, through the QFFD, has already committed funds for the food stockholding mechanism. Food security, as you rightly mentioned, is extremely important for building resilience. And then for the resilience building mechanism itself, we have also committed funds. And that's also very important, especially to build resilience against both external and other shocks, including climate shocks. So very, very important. We hope that, we will be getting more targeted support from you. For IGRAD, we are in a very advanced level of discussions on that. And thank you for reiterating the whole issue about partnerships. That's what we are here for. When we were putting together the title, we were saying forging global partnerships, but we very deliberately put in the word ambitious global partnership. I think we'll have to be ambitious when we're talking about partnerships. And I'm very happy you mentioned about the private sector, part of it, the role that the private sector has to play in mobilizing resources. And as you know, in Doha, we have 1/5 very important deliverable, and that is the International Investment Support Center. And that is precisely to support the LDCs to build their capacities for investment. So that is also one of the important deliverables that we hope that we can take forward. But again, thank you very much, DG Solaiti, for your continued support. And it has been really a pleasure to work with you and your team and the entire Team Qatar, Team Doha here in taking forward the Doha Program of Action. Thank you very much for joining us on this panel. Excellencies, we have some time. We have done very well. So congratulations, Minister, for keeping to your time. We had some very good discussions here. I would now like to invite some other senior officials to share their perspectives and recommendations. And in order to ensure that we have a good number of speakers, because we'd also like to open the floor for taking requests from the floor. I would request the speakers that will follow now to keep their interventions to 4 minutes. And with that, I would like to call Her Excellency Ms. Kesang Deki, Cabinet Secretary, Office of the Prime Minister and Cabinet of Bhutan. Bhutan graduated from the LDC status in December 2023, the first country to do so after LDC 5. Madam, you have the floor. Your Excellency. Do you want to speak from there? Yes, you can. Yes,
thank you. I would like to speak from here since this has a table. I'm not comfortable without a table in front of me.
No, thank you. Please go ahead,
Can
Madam.
I sit down?
Thank you. Yes,
okay,
of course.
Thank you. Distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, firstly, I would like to bring to you the warm greetings of His Majesty, the King and people of Bhutan. At the outset, let me also express our deep appreciation to the UN and the government of Qatar for hosting this crucial meeting. The discussions we've heard, particularly from Your Excellencies holding the fireside chat, underscore a shared urgency on how do we survive graduation, how do we not only survive, but we also need to thrive. In the case of Bhutan, I would like to just make a mention that we graduated after 5 decades as a LDC. This milestone was only possible due to the enlightened leadership of our monarchs and the sustained support of our partners. Critically, our success is anchored in our unique development philosophy, GNH. I'm sure most of you all would have heard about it. GNH is our national compass. It ensures holistic development by relentlessly balancing economic pursuits with social progress, environmental conservation, cultural preservation, and strong governance. This is why our graduation is founded on resilience and sustainability. However, as we have heard from our esteemed speakers up there, graduation is not a finish line. It does not magically dissolve our vulnerabilities. Bhutan, we continue to bear the impacts of a narrow economic base, susceptibility to external shocks, and most acutely, the crushing burden of climate-induced disasters. I think it has been talked about by all our panelists up there. So this confirms the critical truth that we are discussing today. Irreversible graduation demands strategic, country-driven pathways and sustained international partnership. To share Bhutan's experience in defining such a pathway, we have integrated our smooth transition measures into our national planning cycles. While our previous 12 five-year plan prepared us for a shift, our current 13th five-year plan is designed as Bhutan's comprehensive, smooth transition strategy. This transition strategy is guided by a new strategic evolution, GNH 2.0. GNH 2.0 is an urgent rebalancing, strategically prioritizing economic transformation to meet the needs of a graduating nation. We have outlined 4 strategic pathways that will drive our adaptation to the global landscape. Mainly it is on economic transformation, specifically moving beyond reliance on hydropower, social development to continue to safeguard our citizens, and strengthening security in all forms, including tax reforms, promoting good governance for accountability. So this is again complemented by our 21st century economic roadmap, the economic manifestation of GNH 2.0, which aims for a 10-fold increase in our GDP by 2050 through targeted investments in high-value green sectors. Our commitment to unlocking new potentials is also best demonstrated by the Gelifu Mindfulness City, which is a special administrative region. This is not just an urban development, it is a transformative model and a living laboratory of sustainable, high-value growth inspired by GNH. I would like to mention here that this is spearheaded by none other than Our Majesty the King. So the 3 pillars of shared global resilience, Your Excellencies, to support our strategic pathway, if I may mention, our collective appeal from my side rests on 3 essential pillars that will enable all countries who are graduating to be a stronger global player. Like it has been mentioned, I feel that it should be first tailored and extended international support. It has been talked about by our panelists up there. And second, we need accelerated and accessible climate resilience, resilience funding. Bhutan is also no stranger to such climate disasters. And third, we have partnership for structural transformation. We need assistance to enhance the adoption of green technologies, to rapidly digitalize service delivery, and most important, to foster the innovation required for structural economic shift. Excellencies, as we look forward to the successful implementation of Doha Program of Action, Bhutan reaffirms our commitment to extending our full support, sharing the strategic lessons of GNH 2.0 where they can be helpful. Together, through ambitious global partnership, I look forward to our partnership in building resilience, advancing sustainable development, and also creating a brighter, more fulfilling future for all our people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for your insightful reflections and sharing with us Bhutan's remarkable journey. And I was in Bhutan before your graduation, and I know that your journey has been very deeply rooted in your national priorities, but also very nationally driven, although you do acknowledge the strong support of your partners. And colleagues, Bhutan is also a landlocked country with its very unique challenges, geographical challenges. But Madam, your journey to graduation has been remarkable. Thank you very much for sharing that. And now I would like to call upon my very good friend, His Excellency Mr. Amrit Bahadur Rai, Foreign Secretary of Nepal and Chair of the LDC Group. Nepal is set to graduate from the LDC status in November 2026. The government is preparing for this transition through a smooth transition strategy and close integration of graduation goals within national development plans. We have also received a request from the government to undertake a graduation readiness assessment. Ambassador Rai, you have the floor. Would you like to come to the podium? Yes, yes, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Secretary General. Distinguished panelists. First, let me commend all the panelists for sharing their experience as well as thoughts on the sustainable, smooth, and irreversible graduation. And especially, it was really inspiring to hear the unfaltering, unwavering commitment of the Director General of Qatar Fund for continued support towards the smooth transition of LDCs. Let me just highlight a few points that how Nepal is planning to move ahead despite the challenges that we've just faced recently, including climate-induced disasters and so many other political upheavals that went through recently. Despite all these challenges, Nepal remains firmly committed to a trajectory of a sustained, inclusive, and resilient economic transformation. And some of the areas in our economy that we are looking for to move forward is, of course, the agriculture and the food systems, because it continues the major chunk of our economies. And it is essential that we modernize our agriculture and enhance the productivity and build a resilient climate agriculture system to enhance the livelihoods of our people. And it is the central area of our economy. So we are looking for that. And the second, Nepal has immense reserve of hydropower and renewable energy. So we are investing, and we are also inviting the foreign investors to invest in this clean energy so that we can not only supply the clean energy to our grid system, but we can also export to the regional markets. Of course, we look to the Bhutan, which has developed its hydropower and export to the regional markets. And we are also, in a way, following that footprint. And the third, of course, Nepal's economy, another sector is tourism. And tourism remains a vital pillar for employment and foreign exchange earnings and local economic vibrancy. So we are trying our best to make this tourism sector a strong economic area where employment will be generated and where foreign exchange will be earned, and so that our strength of economy will grow, and we will have a sustainable, irreversible graduation. And fourth, of course, we move to upwards in our development ladder, and that is manufacturing, and including construction and textiles and pharmaceuticals, and we also have a huge forest reserve, and we are trying our best to promote the forest-based industries for job creations and value additions and export diversification. And fifth, and this is the latest one, of course, and we will be left behind if we do not catch up the development in this ICT sector. So ICT is emerging as a new frontier, especially our young people are making use of these new technologies, and we are trying our best to invite the foreign investors to develop digital infrastructure and for upgradation the skills of our young people so that we will have a environment for innovations-led growth. And sixth, human capital development through quality education, health and vocational skills. We will empower our young populations to become engines of our growth and sustainable development. And unlocking all these sectors in our economies is central to ensure that Nepal's graduation is a smooth, transitional, smooth, sustainable, and irreversible. But again, the ambitious partnership is essential. And we would like to express our readiness to work with all development partners, including UN systems, to gear up in our graduation process. And we are committed to move forward, and we will do our best to make our graduation smooth, irreversible, and sustainable. And we really appreciate our development partners' continued support to our economic developments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Ray. And I would like to again commend your leadership as the chair of the LDC group in navigating the LDCs through the implementation process of the Doha Program of Action, and especially now as we are also navigating the graduation process. And Ambassador Ray and I, we work together very closely in navigating the graduation process of our respective countries. So it is a proud moment to see you now sitting in Kathmandu, leading your country's efforts in this regard. And Excellencies, I wanted to mention, I think Nepal is leading in the region when it comes to transforming to e-vehicles, right? I think you have one of the highest rates of e-vehicles or electric vehicles in the country, sort of transforming to renewable energies and all that. So again, congratulations on that. Thank you. I have the pleasure now to call upon His Excellency Dr. Poch Bunak, Secretary of State, Ministry of Planning of Cambodia. Cambodia is scheduled to graduate in December of 2029. The country has fulfilled all three criteria in 2021 and 2024, and the government has been very proactive in advancing a smooth transition strategy. However, I believe you continue to face multiple challenges. Excellency, we would like to briefly hear from you. 4 minutes to you, sir, and then we'll turn to the next speaker. Please, sir.
Madam Chair, distinguished panelists, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the government of Qatar and the UN for organizing and hosting this important event. Cambodia is honored to join this meeting because Cambodia also sees that graduation is not just a milestone, but a strategic transition rooted in a resilience, equity, and sustained momentum. In this connection, allow me to share some reflections. Based on the presentation by our panelists, we learned that recent graduates advanced by aligning strategies with UN frameworks, building policy coherence, and pursuing reforms that strengthen resilience and productive capacities. Cambodia graduation offers opportunities to deepen integration, strengthen industries, and enhance credibility through expanding market access, improving investment climate, advancing TVET and digital trade, promoting value-added addition and structural transformation, and coordinating cross-ministerial efforts. Graduation is not the end of poverty. Sustaining inclusive growth does require adaptive international support, including gradual preference phase-outs, entry into schemes like GSP Plus and regional FTAs, continued concessional and blending finance, technology transfer, and coordinated capacity building. The global partnership can unlock transformative opportunities, digital infrastructure, and AI for diversification, renewable energy for a just green transition, regional integration through harmonized regulation, and innovative financing to de-risk critical investment. The fourth point is about the deepening partnership. It means that shifting from aid to co-investment is crucial because it fosters South-South knowledge exchanges, shared technology pools, and blended finance while strengthening local digital infrastructure and skill to build long-term resilience and competitiveness. At the moment, Cambodia has prepared a few things in order to develop its smooth transition strategy. Regarding the political aspect, we have reviewed all existing policies, whether or not they are ready for our development path after the graduation. We review Economic Review 2050. We also, under the review of the industrial development policy, trade policy, agricultural production change, human capital development policy, and many other policies and frameworks are underway. Okay. After we finish all these and taking all the research results based on the impacts of graduation and vulnerability, including those from the United Nations and from the development partners and from the line ministry inside Cambodia, we plan to start dropping our STS by next year, early next year, and plan to finish it by the third quarter of 2026. Excellencies, graduation must not be a cliff, but a bridge to sustain development, national leadership, and global contribution. Cambodia is committed to ensuring no country is left behind and that every graduation is a shared success. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for sharing the very comprehensive measures that your country is taking to ensure a smooth transition. Now, the last speaker from the invited list before I open the floor is my good friend, Mr. Xianzheng Zhang, the Deputy Director General of World Trade Organization. LDCs benefit from legally binding special and differential treatment at the WTO, and sustainable graduation is a top priority for the LDC group at the WTO. DDG Zhang, LDCs face major challenges in getting their proposals approved, such as requests for extended access to special and differential treatment after graduation. I'm being very candid as requested by the LDCs. And so what would you like to suggest are practical strategies or entry points that exist for advancing the LDC group's proposals on post-graduation support, including extended access to special and differential treatment? I've got you on a spot there, my dear friend. if you would like to come to the podium, sir.
Thank you, Madam Fatima. I'm very pleased to be here in Doha, and thank you very much for the invitation. And I would also like to thank the government of Qatar for their hospitality and for the continued commitment to supporting economic development of IODC. Going back to the question, as you are aware, IODC graduation has been the main priority of IODC group in the WTO, and we have come a long way. Over the past 2 years, WTO members agreed on 2 IODC graduation decisions. In 2023, they encouraged preference granting members to provide a smooth and sustainable transition period before withdrawing duty-free, quota-free market access. And at MC 13 in 2024, they offered a 3-year transition period to implement WTO rules and to access IODC-specific technical assistance available under the WTO Technical Assistance and Training Plan. At MC 13, WTO members also agree to continue discussions on IODC graduation in the subcommittee with a view to providing recommendations, if any. By December 2024, last December, the General Council took note of the progress of this work and agreed to revert to this matter by July 2025. In June, the IODC group tabled the latest proposal, which focused on 3 substantive items: subsidies, trade-related aspects of intellectual property, and agriculture, and call for a transitional period after graduation from the IODC category. It was discussed at the subcommittee in June. Informal sessions was also held to consider this proposal. In July, the chairperson of subcommittee provided a report indicating that members were not in a position to make any recommendation at the July General Council. Since then, the IODC group brought up the proposal at the General Council meetings held in July and October. It's expected that the IODC group will be tabling their proposal to the December General Council. So at the same time, this proposal has already been taken up twice without much traction. So a fresh perspective is required to find a practical solution to specific challenges facing graduating IODC. And we also have to be mindful of the discussion that have been held so far. Building on those discussions, we are aware that graduation-related challenges vary from IODC to IODC. We are also recognize that the length of a proposed transitional period should be reasonable. And the MC13 decision already provides some indication in this regard. Members are also aware. In this regard, MC14 offers an opportunity to find a pathway to support graduating IODC. For example, at MC13, members agreed to have a focused session for landlocked developing countries. This is something that the graduating IODC may wish to look into, i.e. the process-oriented outcome, which enables members to hear from the graduating and the graduated IODC regarding the challenge they are facing with a view to exploring practical solutions, including in relevant WTO bodies. From my conversation with the delegations, I understand that there is some appetite for testing this idea. MC14 is approaching fast. I encourage the IODC group at the WTO to remain pragmatic and to focus on what could be doable in the limited time we have. IODCs are the most vulnerable members of the WTO, and their greater integration into global trade is a personal priority to me. While IODC graduation decision discussions remain important, we also need to find a way to support IODC in identifying offensive interest in the WTO negotiations. And that is why we have partners with UNOHLS to help all LDCs fully realize their trade potential. I remain available to support the LDC group as they advance their trade and development priority at the WTO. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, my dear good friend, for sharing with us important updates and pathways for navigating smooth transition in the WTO. And we will continue to count on your support and partnership. Thank you very much. Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, we roughly have about 30 minutes, right? We break at 12:30. I would like to open the floor for any delegations who would like to make very brief remarks. And then I would like to again come back to the panel for, I'll give them 2 minutes each to make any final comments that they would like to make. So if you can please raise your flags, and then we will proceed. I see the Ambassador of Germany. He has raised his hands. I'll give the floor to him, to be followed by the Ambassador of Angola. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, good day, colleagues. Yeah, indeed, let me, as representative of Germany, share some quick 3 observations to this very informative discussions we've been following this morning. One, respect for all the partnering countries in this graduation process. As we learned, it requires a careful balance between sovereignty and resilience and partnership. And I can assure you we are listening carefully the experience you have been sharing, and they certainly will inform our part of this partnerships. Second, as a partner country, the continued commitment of my government to this process. Germany in the past has been annually providing around 5 billion euro to the various programs related to that. Our programs are developing, our budget is developing, also the accountability my government has to respond to its own constituency is developing. So this is why it's important to present such programs even more as mutually beneficial in various areas in order to sustain them. We certainly will continue with a green growth conducive economic framework, which we believe brings together development and trade objectives as support to the Global Alliance for Trade facility with the same objective. And lastly, appreciation and gratitude to Qatar, not only for hosting us with their well-known hospitality and logistical professionalism, but also for their sustained commitment to this process. As we know, the Doha Program of Action very much steers the joint efforts already for a couple of years. But in appreciation also, let me include the work of you, Madam Chair, and the UNOHRLLS. Maybe we can work on the spelling of this abbreviation, but I think there has been a lot of discussion of the role of the UN in general in these troubling political times. And I think the convening power you are showcasing here is an excellent example of what we precisely need. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for your kind words. And yes, indeed, we need to set up a working group to work on the name of my office. But thank you very much for reiterating Germany's continued partnership with the most vulnerable countries. Thank you, Ambassador. I'll now like to, I have a long list of speakers already, so I would like to make a kind request to keep your interventions brief. And if you have any specific questions for any of the panel ministers, please also, you may like to also pose that. So I now give the floor to the Ambassador of Angola, to be followed by India.
Madam Chair, Excellencies, thank you for the opportunity to be here, and Qatar for their commitment to LDC agenda and their hospitality. I commend you, Madam Chair, for your leadership, and thank the panelists for sharing their views. Allow us to make some comments from Angolan's perspective. Angola's trajectory towards LDC graduation demonstrates the importance of adopting strategic and resilient pathways in the current very challenging global development landscape. Our graduation was postponed twice, largely due to external shocks, including oil price volatility and the socioeconomic impacts of COVID-19, which pushed our GNI per capita below the thresholds required for the income-only exception. In response, Angola has activated the enhanced monitoring mechanism and the DOA Program of Action, and is currently working closely with the CDP to define a credible new graduation timeline. This process has reinforced the need to strengthen human capital, accelerate economic diversification, and reduce structural vulnerability. At the same time, we recognize that graduation also presents new opportunities, from accessing more diversified financing instruments to deepening integration into global value chains. Our focus is therefore on ensuring that Angola's graduation is not only timely, but sustainable, inclusive, and capable of unlocking long-term development gains for the well-being of all Angolans. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of India, to be followed by Australia.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Chair. Pardon my way bad throat today. But we wish to begin by thanking Qatar and OHR LLS for organizing this high-level meeting. We fully agree with the importance of sustainable and resilient graduation of LDCs and the importance of forging ambitious global partnerships in this regard. We wish to make 5 points in this regard. First, India believes that graduation is a long-term development milestone, and it's not a one-off technical outcome. And the Doha Program of Action, which emphasizes risk-informed and resilience-oriented graduation, this is an approach which we support, and we believe that it must be backed by sustained international cooperation. Second, structural transformation is indispensable. It requires expanding productive capacities, strengthening value chains, enhancing digital inclusion, and building human capital. In this regard, India's own development journey shows that investment in people, infrastructure, and technology creates stability and long-term growth. I think that's an experience as a developing country, which is important also for the LDCs and other developing countries. Our digital public infrastructure ecosystem, which includes citizen identification, digital payments, direct benefit transfer, and platforms for universal health and agriculture, demonstrates how low-cost, interoperable solutions strengthen governance and inclusion at scale. And we are ready to share our experience in this regard with all other countries. We have also been partnering with LDCs, offering both policy insights and practical tools, including through lines of credit, our technical and economic program, and we have supported LDCs in renewable energy, climate resilient agriculture, etc. Third, we believe that graduation requires a stable global economic environment. Rising borrowing costs, falling ODA, and limited access to climate finance threatens progress, and support should be predictable, concessional, and especially during and after graduation. Fourth, trade is critical, and maintaining simplified rules of origin, preferential market access, and support for export diversification can substantially enhance resilience for LDCs. India stands with LDCs in global trade negotiations consistent with the DPOA.
Ambassador, if you could kindly wrap up, please.
Yes, last point, Chair. Climate vulnerability also plays a central role. LDCs contribute least to emissions, and we feel that common but differentiated responsibilities must guide global climate action. In conclusion, India stands ready to partner with all LDCs on their transformative journey. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, India, and we deeply value India's partnership and support. I would now like to give the floor to Australia, followed by Senegal and the Lao PDR, with a kind request to keep your interventions very brief. I have a very long list of speakers.
Thank you, Under-Secretary General, and thank you, Excellencies. Australia remains committed to implementing the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and Achievement of the SDGs. A central principle of the 2030 Agenda is ensuring no one is left behind, and for this to occur, we need to ensure that graduation processes are sustainable and informed by a country's circumstances, and that is why we cannot rely on income measures alone to determine graduation. Income conceals vulnerabilities that will impact on the sustainability of a country's development trajectory and risk reverse graduating in and out of eligibility. Supply chains, communications, market access, infrastructure and connectivity, including digital connectivity, can all be more complicated and present unique vulnerabilities by virtue of geography. And some countries are more vulnerable to the growing impacts of climate change, meaning hard-won development gains can be erased by sea level rise or a disaster. And we want the multilateral development system to reflect and respond to these realities. And for this reason, Australia has been advocating for uptake of the Multidimensional Vulnerability Index. Vulnerability is only increasing as climate shocks grow in frequency and intensity, and this is particularly true for small island developing states such as those in the Pacific. While some donors are reducing their development budgets, Australia is committed to sustainable growth of our ODA budget, and we continue to prioritise our funding to meet the needs of our partners, including in our Indo-Pacific region, many of whom are LDCs and SIDS. We remain focused on advancing sustainable graduation and transition pathways. We want better consideration of vulnerabilities, don't want vulnerable states to be forced to graduate before they're ready, and we welcome collaboration with partners here to advance this important work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Distinguished Representative of Australia. I give the floor to Senegal, followed by Lao PDR and Uganda, again with the urgent request to keep your interventions short because I have a long list. Thank you. Senegal, you have the floor, sir.
Merci beaucoup, Madame. En tout cas, je voudrais commencer par remercier votre bureau pour l'organisation de cette réunion de haut niveau, mais également remercier le gouvernement du Qatar qui nous accueille aujourd'hui pour en tout cas discuter de politique en faveur des paiements, notamment pour les pays en voie de reclassement, dont le Sénégal. Le Sénégal, comme vous le savez, a élaboré une nouvelle stratégie nationale de développement qui est complètement alignée avec les ODD. Et aussi, il faut dire que suite au reclassement du Sénégal, le travail de mise en place d'une stratégie de transition sans heure a démarré avec un rapport diagnostic qui est revenu largement sur en tout cas les conséquences, l'impact de la sortie. Ceci a permis en tout cas d'entamer le travail d'élaboration d'une stratégie qui prend en compte plusieurs défis, notamment la raréfaction des ressources publiques, des ressources en tout cas face aux différentes crises internationales, mais également face à une crise sur le cadre macroéconomique que le Sénégal connaît, comme vous le savez. Plusieurs, en tout cas, initiatives sont en train d'être mises en œuvre pour pouvoir accompagner cette période de transition. Et je pourrais en tout cas revenir cet après-midi lors de la session sur la mobilisation des ressources internationales pour exposer en tout cas l'essentiel des réformes, mais également des politiques que le Sénégal est en train de mettre en œuvre pour pouvoir avoir une transition en douceur. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Distinguished Representative of Senegal. I would now like to give the floor to the Ambassador of Lao PDR, to be followed by Uganda.
Madam Moderator, Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, it is my great honor to attend this high-level meeting on sustainable and resilient NDC graduation. the LAUPDR, as one of the graduating LDCs, highly values this high-level meeting, which comes at an important moment, as many countries, including the LAUPDR here, navigate the path towards sustainable graduation amid a rapidly evolving global development landscape. For graduating countries like LAUPDR, this shift offers both significant opportunities and challenges. Certainly, graduation is a milestone of progress and affirmation of resilience, sound policies, and people-centered development of NDCs. Yet, we are also aware that the path beyond graduation can be fragile. With the phasing out of international support measures, exposures to market volatility, and climate vulnerabilities, this can threaten the hard-won gains that enabled graduation in the first place. Therefore, to ensure that this progress is sustained and inclusive, for the LAUPDR, we have adopted a forward-looking, country-driven, smooth transition strategy tailored to our unique context and aspirations. Continued support from the international community is essential to fully and effectively implement our SDG at the national level. On our part, we are working on finding innovative policies that promote economic diversification, invest in human capital, strengthen our institutions, and build resilience to challenges such as climate change and global market disruptions. These efforts aim to create development that is both sustainable and inclusive, not easily lost or reversed. We also believe that embracing digital transformation, green growth, and regional integration can open up new opportunities for trade and investment, encourage creative financing solutions, and deepen international partnerships. Ultimately, these steps will help us not only maintain progress after graduation, but also achieve long-term sustainable development. To conclude, I wish to thank the government of Qatar and also UNOHRLNS for the hospitality and for organizing this important meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for kind words. I now give the floor to Uganda, to be followed by Finland.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you too to the distinguished panelists and delegates here present. Uganda is indeed honored to be part of this dialogue. And one of the key lessons we've taken on our journey is that progress among LDCs is not something that happens in isolation. Most of these LDCs are situated within an economic bloc or some form of regional economic community. Through you, Madam Chair, I would like to request His Excellency Professor Kaudhari, the Special Assistant and Chief Advisor, Minister of Finance of Bangladesh, to comment on the role of regional integration and security in the performance and progress of his country in terms of graduation, and what insights they have gained that would be relevant for other countries. I thank your office, Madam Chair, for keeping graduation certainly high on the global discourse. I do not know to what extent the architecture of the UN as far as regional integration can be upgraded or modified to respond also to the reality that countries must be anchored within regional security and economic frameworks to prosper in their resilience post-graduation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, distinguished representative of Uganda. And I will turn to Minister Chaudhry later when you get the floor, sir. And I believe on the regional integration part thereof, we will have further discussions in the course of the next 2 days. Okay. I will now move on to Finland, to the Ambassador of Finland, to be followed by the UN Technology Bank, and then Professor Selim Rehan. Yes, Ambassador, you have the floor.
Madam Chair, thank you very much. I would like to thank Qatar and Your Excellency Undersecretary General for convening us here today. And Madam Chair, you stressed importantly long-term partnerships in the graduation, and I want to assure that Finland is and will be one of the reliable partners for LDCs and in accelerating SDGs also in future. Another example of these partnerships is the LDC Future Forum series, organized by Finland together with the Office of High Representative. We believe that the Future Forum support LDCs in harnessing their full potential and reaching sustainable growth and sustainable development. And we indeed welcome all the partners next May in Helsinki. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. And indeed, the Future Forum has emerged as a very important platform for partnership. Thank you for hosting that, and thank you for your support to the LDCs, Ambassador. I would like to give the floor to the UN Technology Bank. Deodat, you have the floor. 60 seconds, please. That's a lot of time. And then I'll give it to Selim Rehan, another 60 seconds before I turn to the ministers, because we don't really want to eat up the time of our lunch. Deodat, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Undersecretary General. Within the 60 seconds, I must commend you and your team for bringing us together for this important forum, and commend the government of Qatar for supporting this important initiative. The job of the UN Technology Bank for LDCs is simple: to leverage science, tech, and innovation to help the LDCs fast-track their development. In that context, I just wanted to ask 2 questions. One, I was quite intrigued by His Excellency, the representative from Nepal, when he cited the importance of technology. And I really must commend and welcome the Director General for the Qatar Fund for Development, focusing on investment. So in a sense, I would like a response from the esteemed panelists in terms of what role do they see tech and innovation playing in terms of helping countries that have graduated sustain their graduation. And His Excellency, the Director General for the Qatar Fund for Development, you've cited the importance of investment, which I fully agree, but pushing the envelope a bit, Excellency, how can we enable investment in that tech and innovation space to really fast-track development and enable sustainable graduation? I exceeded by maybe 15 seconds, Madam Undersecretary General. My apologies, but thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Deodat. I was being tough with you, but you'll get an opportunity to highlight more the important work that the Technology Bank is doing. And I hope that we'll have the time for the DG to respond to you, but we'll get more opportunities. The last speaker on my list, and before I give the floor to Professor Selim Rehan, you also have a mighty 60 seconds. But my deep apologies to the representative of Bangladesh and Tuvalu, and thank you for your understanding. Your ministers are on the panel, so I hope that, thank you for your understanding for not pressing for the floor. Professor Selim Rehan, an expert that we have here. Yes, sir, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question to these esteemed panelists is that we know we are talking about the global development landscape, and we know that there is a kind of volatility in the global development landscape now, and I really commend Qatar Fund for Development, in organizing this event and showing their commitment. But my question to the panelists is that, how do you really see what kind of cooperation the LDCs, whether the existing LDCs, the graduated LDCs, and the graduating LDCs, to work together to, given this kind of volatile global development landscape where we are actually moving away from the rules-based system to more kind of deals-based one. So how do you see what kind of cooperation would be needed? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Salim, for sticking to the 60 seconds, and that's a very important question. Excellencies, I'll now like to move on to our panel of ministers here to briefly perhaps respond to some of the issues that have been raised, including the last few questions that have come up from the Technology Bank, Deodat, Salim Rehan, and also Uganda, I believe, also made an important question for Minister Chaudhry. So let me go in the same order. So Minister Panappa, would you like to have any response or even just perhaps some brief closing remarks that you'd like to give?
Yeah, thank you very much, moderator. Well, first of all, I would like to thank my colleague ministers for sharing their views and on becoming graduated from the. Yeah, I also want to thank speakers from the floor for sharing their experiences and especially their strategies on transitioning into graduation. Yeah, well, for me, for Tuvalu, I think, as I've mentioned in the beginning, I think I would strongly recommend that resilience is actually the true measure of progress. And if you agree with my recommendation, maybe it's something that the UN can look into and probably set up a global resilience fund dedicated to LDC graduates. That will really help them. Because I know the concern around the meeting is losing out on those assistance that are provided. So I think that's my message at this point in time. But I also like to acknowledge the presence of our partners who are here with us, who are keen to help us in the transition period. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Panappa, for that very important concrete recommendation, and I hope we are all taking note of it. I know that Australia, our colleague from Australia, would know that we are now also supporting the Pacific Resilience Facility, a specific fund for the Pacific Islands that is also going through. But that's a very concrete proposal, Minister. Thank you very much. Minister Guadalupe, any final remarks?
Thank you once again. Let me starting to say that graduation is a process that can be jeopardized overnight with natural disasters. So if graduation, quoting United Nations Secretary General, should be rewarded, not punished, providing ecosystem service to the world should be even more rewarded. Taking the case of São Tomé and Príncipe as the country with 100% of territory World Biosphere Reserve. So we are providing ecosystem service to the world. Having said that, São Tomé and Príncipe, as I mentioned before, for instance, when it comes to the developing parties, we are not asking for debt relief or debt forgiveness. We are asking for debt swap for climate finance. Right after the graduation, we deployed a National Sustainable Strategy 2640. And we will be presenting main projects at investment forums in Brussels on December 11, of which I would like to take this opportunity to invite many development partners or private investors that is here present at this room. But in the past 50 years, since we got independence from Portugal, we have relied too much on development partners. That's why the new strategy, we are relying more on the private partners. Because there are investment projects that normally development partners do not support. Like, for instance, logistical ports. São Tomé and Príncipe is the country situated at the center of the world. We are small in size, but big in ambitions. There's a landmark in São Tomé and Príncipe where the Equator Line crosses, where you can put 1 foot in the north and another feet in the south. So basically, we are not looking for massive tourism, but we are looking for add value tourism, ecotourism. That's why we are trying to differentiate. We do have a lot to learn from Maldives that has graduated since 2011, right? But the kind of tourism that we are seeking or they are looking for is ecotourism, because we want nature and economic growth to work hands to hands together. Allow me to very briefly to tell you a story, how we seek this support. It's really important for us. Right now we are trying to finance to build a new hospital. And because we do have a program with the IMF, we are not allowed to take any grants, any credit that is not concessional. And we got a finance from a partner, Badea, that is non-concessional. Because for São Tomé and Príncipe, we have to have at least 35 of grant elements. And we are shortage of $2 million US, only $2 million US. And IMF is preventing us to sign the contract until we get the another 2 million grants to make it concessional. So we are talking about saving lives. We are not talking about building roads. That's why we are not here begging for international partners to support us, but we are asking for a fair trade. So if we are providing the ecosystem service to the world that is saving lives, we are asking the same in return. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Minister, for your compelling story. But, you're on the right path. I mean, you're moving towards attracting more investment, and we are all looking forward to the investment forum next week. Minister Hamid, any final words?
Thank you very much, Madam. Yes, I would like to, just to start with, let me once again reiterate some of the points that I highlighted when I earlier spoke.
Very brief.
Yes.
Yes.
Of course, graduation journey is, no two countries is the same, as I told you earlier. And we have to have targeted support. Therefore, it's crucial, And national ownership, proactive actions, and coherence between strategies is essential. Now, climate change, that are compounding challenges for all of us, all the developing countries. And it is important to address these challenges to ensure irreversible progress. Just to address briefly for some of the comments that was made in the public. Now, as far as Maldives is concerned, the ambassador, His Excellency, the ambassador to Germany said, sovereignty, resilience, and partnerships. That's very true. It's very important for us, I can say confidently that the Maldives, we are what we are today because of our friends and our development partners. And most of the bilateral partners, they are here today, And then even the multilateral partners. Now, I would also like to emphasize that His Excellency Fahad Al-Swayati mentioned about the private sector, which is very important. When you talk about Maldives, and His Excellency referred to our tourism as well, do you know why tourism is successful in the Maldives? This is probably one of the industries in the Maldives that the government does not get involved. It's left to the private sector from the very inception. They only regulate. So it's very, very important. And the other thing is, a question came up about technology. Yes, technology is very important today. And that is why we have a very ambitious program. We have launched early this year what we call Maldives 2.0, which we are trying to digitize all the services, everything. And our population is very small, not even 1 million. And we are constrained with a lot of issues. We have a huge expatriate population. And just last week, we were successful in fully digitalizing all the visas and entry visas, and it helped a lot, cuts out of course. So these are the things that we can do just to Since the lack of time, I don't want to take any more of your time, valuable time. I'm sure we will have enough time to discuss over the next couple of days. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Indeed, we'll have more opportunities during the course of the next 3 days to discuss some of this. Minister Chaudhary, very quickly, sir, a few last remarks.
Yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity. There were questions specifically directed to me. Actually, the answer I have is also will answer the question that Professor Salim Raihan posed. I think that we are moving from a rule-based world economy to deal-based economy and how we survive. I mean, in that kind of circumstances, regional cooperation is fundamental. That regional cooperation could be cooperation between LDCs, South-South cooperation, or in your immediate neighborhood. I say regional cooperation, and there was a question about regional economic integration. Integration is more technical and more difficult thing. So we have to understand that achieving regional integration requires a lot of political will plus a lot of economic conditions got to satisfy between different countries. The variations that we have, even within the region, the level of economic development, integrations becomes a very lengthy and complicated process. But regional cooperation can be achieved easily. That's a much more low-hanging fruit. And this is very vital. So what is Bangladesh doing in that sense? We have not done much, actually, unfortunately, in regional cooperation, but we are now realizing the importance of regional cooperation. We have applied to become part of RCEP, Regional Economic Comprehensive Partnership, and we are also trying to get membership or at least association as an associate member with ASEAN. And of course, we have a few other regional cooperation systems. There, BIMSTEC is another one, and unfortunately, SARC is not working properly. We are trying to make it more workable. So this is specifically in terms of the question that was posed to me. But again, I would say, in the final comments is that closing remarks. I'm really grateful for the insights that I received from my colleagues here, especially the story of the IMF one. I mean, this is very important for the development partners to realize the dilemma that we face. I give an example of Botswana. Botswana was the first country to graduate. And Botswana's life expectancy declined during that period because Botswana graduated in the period of HIV/AIDS epidemic. But due to strict IMF conditions, they could not spend on health. So, to be that inhumane is really sad, I would say. But on the other hand, I'm really heartened by the commitment of the development partners today that we hear, Australia, Finland, and others who are, and of course, Qatar is always a good friend. What we actually need, I would say, is more predictable support measures during transitions. Now what we are doing on a bilateral basis, we are negotiating with different countries. And the negotiating capacity of our countries, the LDCs, are not the same. And we are really, when we say LDCs, the least developed, our negotiating capacity also least developed. So if the, under a bigger umbrella, for example, now what we are talking about here, and your office, of course, can play an important role in making this transition support more predictable and be systematic rather than different countries coming up with different periods of support.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Minister. important point. And last but not the least, Director General Al-Sulaiti, any final comments, sir?
No, thank you. Thank you very much. I would like to answer the question just about the digital. Yes, the digital is very important, for LDC. But we cannot do everything on the digital side. The country need to have a niche and focus what they want to do. Digital and what, and financing capacity, which is very important. I think. Again, killing corruptions and going around this is the key things. Education, vocational training. This is the futures. We as Qatar we focus a lot on education, employment, health, and digitalizing this. As a core components for LDC countries is very important. I'd like to end by saying that the countries need to depend on themselves. They need to look at their natural resources, what they have, how can they utilize it. A lot of other countries, a rich country now, looking at other natural resources in their countries now, looking for other opportunities, because again, people cannot depend only on gas or oils or other things. So the digitals need to be aligned with what the future is going for. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I think that brings us to the close, and let me quickly try to sum up. Honorable Ministers on the panel, Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, I would like to first of all thank our panel ministers for their very, very important contribution to this important dialogue, and I would also like to thank the other participants for their contribution. I believe you'll all agree that we had an excellent discussion, and that sets the tone for our meeting for the next 3 days. Many issues have come up because of the shortness of time. We could not address everything, but I think the next 3 days there'll be many opportunities during the sessions and outside of the sessions to further discuss them. 3 important takeaways, if I may very quickly say. First, and as we have repeatedly heard, that national leadership and vision remains central to driving structural transformation and ensuring a smooth, sustainable, and irreversible graduation. And I think that was repeated by most of the speakers, including the ministers here. And robust national strategies, and we heard of some very good examples also from the panel, aligned with the Doha Program of Action, the smooth transition strategies, the SDGs, and very importantly, your national development plans are at the heart of enabling smooth, risk-informed graduation. Secondly, persistent vulnerabilities do not disappear upon graduation. We also heard that. Thus, enhanced and predictable global support, as Minister Chaudhry mentioned at the end, is pivotal throughout the transition period and beyond. Third, it is evident that when the right policy pathways, transition strategies, and global partnerships come together, real progress is possible. And incentive-based graduation is key to achieving smooth and sustainable graduation. I would like to thank each one of you in the room for your very important contribution. Ministers, thank you very much for your participation and for being here today. And we will continue our conversation in the next 3 days. Thank you very much. This ministerial dialogue is over. I believe my colleague wants to make a housekeeping announcement. And we have eaten up about 13 minutes of our lunchtime, but that should be okay. Thank you.